Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast, where we talk with top entrepreneurs and CEOs about creating valuable companies through creative transactions. Now, let's get started with the show.
Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast. In this special edition of the show, we'll take a look back at some of our favorite conversations from past episodes. It's brought to you by our friends at Fiscal Advocate. They're our sponsor. They help agency owners specifically arrange their financials in a way that it turns into real data that they can operate their business from. They've been a great partner of the show for a long time. So to them, thank you for your continued sponsorship. To learn more and get started, visit fiscaladvocate.com/contact. As people know, at Potomac Business Capital, we help entrepreneurs in the digital marketing space that are looking to accelerate their growth and to maximize the value of a second bite transaction. By putting a unique twist on the typical banking process, we create satisfied, wealthy clients who make an impact on the world. Over the past 15 years, we have perfected our strategies for M&A advising and exit planning to guide clients through everything, from pre-deal planning to closing. To learn more, visit potomacbusinesscapital.com or email todd@potomacbusinesscapital.com. Now, let's take a look back at some great conversations I had with past guests.
First of all, you never want to be the biggest or the smallest client of any professional services business, whether it's an agency or your lawyer or your accountant, right? I mean, that's part one. Part two is when you have an investment banker who's dealing with certain size companies. You know, they know the multiples, they know the players. When they walk in the door to a potential acquirer, people are going to sort of sit up and say, okay, these guys mean business. So it's really important to have that investment banker who's the right size, because they're going to know the potential acquirers. In terms of the specific experience, number one is you have to know sort of the nuances of the marketing world. So, you know, is this project revenue? Is it recurring revenue? You know, is this in a category where there's a lot of transactions taking place? We talked about that stage 2 versus stage 3. Or is this a category that was hot 10 years ago, is no longer hot? Investment bankers are going to know that. I think the example that you're referring to is in the case of the first time we sold, our investment banker had actually represented another player that was just really the same agency as us in a way. It just transacted 8 months earlier. So first of all, he knew what everyone had bid. And secondly, he knew that one of the companies that got second place was the company that was now bidding for us. And he knew that they were sort of a disgruntled loser and they weren't going to lose again. And so that's why he was able to sort of work with them to sort of get this premium offer, because he had really inside knowledge of what had happened a year previously and how important it was for them to make a transaction quickly.
For me, it wasn't necessarily as much quantitative. It was like, what do I want, right? Like I wanted our culture, our business. I wanted these growth opportunities. I wanted to be able, you know, to do what I wanted to do and sort of, you know, step out of that day-to-day role. And I wanted these certain opportunities for our team. And so there were a bunch of, you know, qualitative things. And I think, you know, obviously that you're going to have quantitative goals too. And I think it's important to write this stuff down. I can't tell you the amount of, look, you can do a deal too early. I mean, quote unquote, but you can't do one too late. And if you ask people from 2021 to 2024, they'd, you know, might agree with that. And I think a lot of people, when they get into these things, their expectations move, their numbers shift, they start to get a little irrational. And a lot of times they turn down something that they're never going to get again. And so I think it's really good in a quiet time to keep yourself honest, where you said, look, this is what I would want. This would make me happy. And this is good enough.
When Everlane outlined the deal structure, to your point, there was a large portion of rolled equity there. And that meant that we were, and even with sort of what we were talking about prior, like the search funds we were talking to, we would have only rolled like 20%. We would have held on to about 20% of the company. In this, we held on to, I think it was like 47 or 48%.
Yeah, 48 change. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to us, it was like, it's pretty much 50-50, you know? So the fact that we were able to retain, like, you know, hold on to pretty much 50% of the equity there, and the business was really compelling to me. It made me feel like I was still extremely tied to the company as a founder, as a leader. And I think also, right, it gives you that extra incentive to push to grow, right? Because you still have so much tied up in the business. So that was actually very personally important for me that happened. As far as sort of my emotions around bringing on debt, I think, again, a lot of this goes back to the trust that we have with Everlane and their experience and, the companies, even in the references that we talked to when we went through the process. So it never really crossed my mind to be overly concerned with that piece of it.
So number one is act from the beginning. Don't wait until the end to be fair.
Meaning at the beginning of your relationship.
Act that way all the time. Build the trust. If there are issues in the foundation of your relationship, they will show themselves at the most emotional time. So fix them along the way. Don't let the small cracks become,
great advice.
That's the first thing. And so that's what I would say. I say that in marriage as well. Fix them early. Number two is really lean into empathy. And what I mean by that is take the time to go through what will this person go through when I give them the news. So where are they at in life? Where has our partnership been to date? What are the conversations we've had? How are they going to take the news? How are they going to perceive this? Really put yourself in their situation and spend hours there thinking about it.
Effectively, it streamlines a lot of the things that you typically would have had to negotiate that are important, right? Between a buyer and seller around representations and warranties that are made in the purchase agreement. So, expressing the fact that, yes, our financials are correct as an example, or yes, we're delivering the company to you with no liabilities, are just a couple examples of things that you would rep to, right? There's plenty of others. These types of terms used to be negotiated in pretty excruciating detail and slowed the ultimate ability. It took deals longer to get done because the purchase agreement negotiation period was taking longer. And what reps and warranties insurance now affords folks is if for some reason there's a error from the auditors in a business, and that's realized after a deal, it allows for a protection of the seller to still retain the amount of proceeds they had because this is insured under a reps and warranties policy. So it protects both the buyer in that circumstances because they're going to recuperate sometimes even a multiple of the purchase price, right? In that accounting error example, let's say EBITDA is off by $1 million because of an accounting error. If you pay 10 times for a business, that buyer is going to get a $10 million check from the insurance company. And the seller will not have to pay out any of the $10 million because it's being covered by the insurance company. So it's a really great mechanism to de-risk certain terms for both sides.
Thanks for listening to the Second Bite podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.